Hey guys, we are completely off today. I'm telling you what. Okay, so welcome moms to Hip Homeschools, mentoring moms, and we're having a really crazy day. My camera is showing me gray. Heidi is yellow. I guess you can tell which one's Heidi. Heidi is her starts at 8, and hers is showing up yellow, and Dorinda is sepia tone. We don't know how Dorinda got this fabulous warm sepia tone, but she got sepia tone. So, hey Dorinda.
Hey, good morning.
So, anyway, so welcome to Hip Homeschool Moms. We're late, and we're going to see how this works out. So, Heidi, introduce yourself. Dorinda, introduce yourself. We're off today. We've got a new time. We're going to be changing everything, so y'all just bear with us.
Heidi here from startsatat.com. Yeah, we are off today. I don't know what the yellow is. It's freaking me out. I'm like yellow toned. But anyways, so you can find me blogging at startsatat.com. I blog a lot about high school since that's my new adventure over the past couple of years, and a lot about unit studies. And anybody who watches it all knows how incredibly type A and schedule oriented I am.
Not you.
Oh, and good morning, everyone. I'm Dorinda Wilson from Simple Nourishing Home. Almost forgot the name of my blog there for just a minute.
See, we're all off.
That's how off we really are. We have eight kids. We've graduated 3 so far, and currently have 2 high schoolers, 2 junior hires, and a 3rd grader. So we've homeschooled all the way through. So we've been doing this for about 20 years, and yeah, so we're here to try to encourage you and keep you going for the long haul here.
And we're slow, so y'all please bear with us. I don't know, really, honestly, all we did was change the time, y'all. You would think that we have done something, dramatic. I know. What's up with that?
It's that we're nearing that brain shut-off time for me. It's 2 o'clock Eastern time here, and that time from about 3 to 5, not only is it really chaotic in my house, but I just am so slow. It's like my whole body slows down. So we're nearing that button time for our house. So I'm drinking my caffeine and trying to,
And I feel the opposite. I'm actually awake today because in the past it's been 8 o'clock for me to get in front of the screen, and I feel like I'm half awake when I get there, and I'm kind of like, ugh. So now I've had coffee, I've had toast, I've had good conversation, and I'm ready to rock and roll here. So.
Okay, well, Heidi, I'm here with you. I'm drinking my caffeine sun drop. So if y'all see me guzzling, you'll know I just needed an extra energy boost. So anyway, okay, so we're going to start. So we're doing something a little different today, besides the time, obviously, and besides the fact that we're all off. That's a little different, right? But that's real. That's a mom. We're all homeschool moms. We do this ourselves, and so you get to see us on our good days, and you get to see us on our bad days. And today's a bad day, so just hang with us. So anyway, so we have done something a little different today. All of our team that's going to be on mentoring moms each week. Heidi, I hadn't even told you this, so
this is news to Heidi. Newsflash.
I'm sorry, Heidi.
I'm behind the times, apparently.
What we were talking about doing, I probably should present it that way, is that everybody that's on the call will go and get a couple of questions from our group or from our Facebook page that really resonate with them. That really sounds like something that they are passionate about, that they want to answer, because it really stems from their own personal voice. So I have none on here. Heidi has none on here. So today is going to be Dorinda's voice, apparently. Thank you, Dorinda, for going to get all the questions.
Oh, boy. Nothing like being put in the hot seat here.
No, you got your caffeine, so you're the one that's ready,
yeah,
right?
I'm ready, so hopefully it'll all come out okay, Sometimes it's great up here, but not so great coming out, so we'll see.
It'll be great. It'll be great. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in, and I'm going to just start with this one. It says, can you tell us about your homeschooling schedule? I'm wondering what everyone else does. So, Dorinda? You
Okay.
start.
Well, that sounds like an everybody question. Everybody can
It
answer
is.
this question. For us, it's kind of been the same routine for years, and I think it's important to remember your circumstances, the season of life you're in, how many kids you have, the kind of kids you have. That's all gonna play into how you're going to set up your schedule, how many outside activities you have. Like Heidi, you've said by 3 in the afternoon you are out the door. You've got gymnastics and outside activities, and we don't do a ton of that, so that's not, you know, although that's our more relaxed time of the day, we spend it at home. So most of the time. So anyway, so to answer the question, our homeschooling schedule has always been to get up and we have a few chores they have to do before breakfast, and then breakfast and a few more chores, and then we kind of gather together and have a little bit of a devotional time and sort of everybody gets kind of their instructions, and then they go and do their individual schoolwork. And I'm available as needed for questions and that kind of thing. Sometimes I'll do stuff in the kitchen. I'll work with the younger ones if they need it. And usually by noon we're done, pretty much, except for like the high schoolers. Usually they have to go another hour, maybe two past noon. But come mid-afternoon, it's kind of always been sort of a free time, and that's a time when our kids have had a lot of interest-led learning where they just go and explore, and anything they're interested in, they start figuring out how to learn what they want to know, and or they just take a mental break, so, and then it goes into late afternoon. I have a list of things that like I'll walk, as you're going throughout your house throughout the day, you notice like these hot spots in your house, like there's a pile of stuff over here that needs to be put away and a cupboard that needs to be organized, and I'll just keep a running list of those. And at 4 o'clock, from 4 to 5, we have what's called odd job time, and they just go and bring order to all those things. I hand out those jobs to each of them, and they get them done, and then it's dinner prep and dinner and family time after that, after the cleanup and stuff. So that's kind of how our day has pretty much always gone. So Wednesdays we're gone. The kids go to classes for the day, outside classes. So yeah, that's sort of our break in the middle of the week. So
There you
yeah.
go. Heidi, I know you're very, very organized, so she has a very specific time for everything.
I do, and I don't. Yeah, I am. Well, I like things organized. I hate having things looming over my head in the afternoon, especially since, like Dorinda mentioned, and I've mentioned multiple times, 3 o'clock comes and we are hitting the ground running. I have one that's got to be to the gym. I come home from doing that, and dinner's got to be on the table at 4:30, and my husband and I are out the door by 5:15 with the other two, and we all convene home about 9 o'clock at night. So there is no evening time right now for us to gather as a family. This is a busy time. It will settle down again after football season's over. But yeah, so I like everything. I don't want to have to worry about anything in the evening. I don't want to feel like things aren't done. So we are morning routine people. It's funny because I was just asking that over on my Facebook page. It starts at 8 this morning, whether people are morning or afternoon, kind of work doers. And my teenager gets up before I do. She gets up about 7 and gets going, and she's done by 10:30 or 11:30 almost every day. And I'm actually putting a post up today on my blog about our morning routine and chore chart, because I've gone to kind of a flow chart system. I put a whiteboard up in the hallway upstairs outside our kids' rooms, and I created a list of things for their morning routine and kind of put them in a lot. And so they're expected, to get up, make their bed, which for me, making the bed is just don't leave the covers on the floor. I'm not a nurse's fold kind of mom, but just don't leave the covers on the floor. Just kind of throw them over the bed so let's make the bed, pick up any mess you had in your room, eat breakfast, brush your teeth, brush your hair, get dressed. Those kinds of things are literally on our morning kind of routine and flow chart, and they check all of those things off with the letter of the week, like M for Monday or whatever as they go. And once all that morning stuff is done, which should be done by 9:30 at the latest, they sit down to their school assignment sheets that I print out weekly. And so then they take to their task of school. Yeah, I know you're laughing because I'm so structured. From one list to the next, ladies. That's how it goes in this house. So they do their assignment sheets, and once they finish that, I have also a chore chart that's below that on on the whiteboard, and at night I switch the chores around. I actually repurposed the alphabet magnetic letters from when my kids were younger, and I use a bunch of them. They have codes, like L is for laundry, D is for dishes, and so I will move the magnetic letters around underneath the kids' names each day based on what needs to be done. Kind of like Dorinda said, she has hot button points that she sees in the house that she keeps track of. That's kind of what I do. As far as like what needs to be done. My teenager, she cleans the toilets, so if she gets a W for wipe down, that means the toilets need to be cleaned. My 8-year-old, she wipes down the counters and sinks in the bathrooms, and I'll put a wipe down on hers and write which bathroom, for that day. So that's kind of how we do our sort of like hot button cleaning items, and so each one has, 2 or 3 chores to do for the day. And then once all of that stuff is done, they're free to do as they please. Like I said, my teenager's done by 10:30, 11:30 every morning. Right. My younger ones, 6th and 3rd grade, they could be done sooner. They just, are very kind of... They just aren't. They're very distracted. So they're like breaks, like, the Pokemon cards came in the mail today, and, right. My son just could not focus on anything else. Can I please open my cards? Please, 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 So we kind of, so I set a timer and let him go off and, mess around with his cards for a while, because otherwise he wasn't going to focus on anything anyways. Right. So I think that covers my type A list-oriented.
Yes. Well, I used to print out a schedule for each child. I mean, it's more like a routine. Is that, yeah? Mm-hmm. Wow, color coordinated, Trish. I love it. I'm impressed.
Don't be. Really, don't be. Okay, so you see there's 4 categories across the top. This is Chase's. It's math, science, language arts, history, geography, and economics is that last one. It's sort of a catch-all. And you'll notice that the last one is huge. Mm-hmm. And that's, so there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday running down the side. And then we have this huge chunk right here, right there. This huge chunk is TRISMS. It's an all-inclusive curriculum, and it's what we do for our history. It's what we do for geography. We're using it for economics. We're using it for a bunch of other things. IEW is even weaved into there. And so we use it. The purple is language arts. The science is brown, and math is algebra is orange. And that's what they do every day. They do not have a time to do it. They don't have an order to do it. This is what they do every day. And this is Chase's, but Gage's and Blake's look almost exactly alike it. Because we cover the basics. But this is really good for me because this indicates a 4-hour day. We have 4 hours, and you notice that most of the time is spent in TRISMS because that's the one that has all the meat in it. But this is really good for me because we used to go from almost 8 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon every day. Oof. So this is actually my compromise, but I don't tell them when. And honestly, a lot of that TRISMS is reading. They have to read practically a Henty book a week. And if y'all have ever read Henty, it is heavy-duty reading. So they have a lot of research they're doing, and they have a lot of reading they're doing. And as far as schedule, I am not. We were, up by 7:30 and at it. Well, it starts at 8, just like I do. But, we've calmed down a little bit about that. I'm not sure if I like it or not. I'll be real honest with you. But we have backed it down a little bit where we have a routine, and we all start essentially at the same time, but we don't all finish at the same time. My 14-year-old goes longer. He's doing a couple of extra things that the younger ones aren't doing, and so he goes longer, and he's in high school, so he's expected to go a tiny bit longer. But it's taken me, I've been homeschooling, this is my 6th year. It has taken me 6 years to get to back away from, we've got to start at this time, we've got to do this together. It's really taken me 6 years to get to that point.
Well, and I think it is really smart to have, like for me, I have blocks of time that, okay, during this block, this is basically what needs to be going on. It's not down to the gnat's eyebrow, but, Heidi might be more to the gnat's eyebrow, but that works really well for her family and her kids. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
And so it's good and it works for her. And that's the thing with homeschooling is, we are trying to figure out what works for our kids, but we have to figure out what works for us as well, because we are a certain personality, certain type of teacher, we have certain bents, we have certain things that are important to us, and it's important to incorporate those things into how we're doing our day, because we won't last the long homeschooling marathon if we don't figure some of that out, and just be willing to work with those variables and not be too caught up in, well, it doesn't, like, my schooling doesn't look like Heidi's, and it doesn't matter,
Right.
and so that's a hard thing to get comfortable with, but I think it's,
And
it
it's even
happens over time.
And it's even harder to adjust as your children change and as the
Yes.
needs change,
Yep.
because we do get into, like for me, it was working. It was not, I didn't have complaints. My kids, bless their hearts, they're little troopers. They will just go, 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 go. And I'm not sure why that is, so don't ask me. I have no idea. I just think that I'm blessed with kids that, are cooperative in general. And so, for whatever reason, it worked, but I was looking at it from a joy perspective about how joyful
Right. Right.
school is,
Right.
and it wasn't joyful at all for any of us, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there's curriculum that we love, but it wasn't joyful, if that makes
Right.
sense.
That makes
And
perfect.
so that's what
Yeah.
we did. It was like, okay, am I robbing them of their love of learning? And that's
Right.
why I backed down. And I gave them some free time. And, we're doing things like Scrafty. My kids, I know Heidi is too. My kids
Yep.
absolutely love Minecraft. They would be on Minecraft
Oh
24
yeah.
hours a day if I
Yeah.
would let them.
Yeah.
And so Scrafty is sort of a compromise. Don't you agree, Heidi?
Yeah, absolutely. My son, he's working through a self, it's not a live one, it's a self one. So it's like 14 weeks or something for periodic table of elements. And he will do his work for the day and be like, can I play Minecraft? I'm like, sure, you got to do your Scrafty first. And he'll just live there. He won't even end up leaving. He'll just stay in that
That's
server
awesome.
and do what he was doing and learn the elements or whatever he was doing, and then continue on because he's so, he's so enthralled
Engrossed.
in it.
That's
And my little one, she was
so
doing an
awesome.
animal habitats one, and she loved going through and looking what everybody else was doing, because everybody gets their own plots of land, and
Yep.
she loved going through and being like, oh, look what so and so did with this one, and oh, I want to make that for mine. And
I
so
never thought about that, or something like that. But I hear that
yeah,
too. Oh, look at how they did that. I've never thought about doing that. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's awesome. I really want to get our 10-year-old on that, because I think he would totally be into it. I just haven't actually gone there and done it yet. So,
well,
yeah.
it's hard. It was hard for me. And Heidi, I bet it was just as hard for you because you're so type A. You're like me. I'm definitely on that end of the spectrum, and so it was really hard for me to go, well, this doesn't feel very school-ish.
And I'm all like, ooh, let's do that.
It was really hard, and I still feel guilty, y'all. I mean, I still really do. I'll be
Oh
going,
my goodness.
I'll
Oh, that's
look over there and go,
funny.
are y'all really
Oh,
playing Minecraft, or are you doing Scrafty? Are you really in class, or are you playing? Because some of them are Survivor, even in the Scrafty stuff, and I'm like, are you playing? Or are you working? And so I have a
right,
hard
right.
time
Oh,
with it.
that's
But yeah,
funny.
I know. I
Well, and
know.
I think the whole idea of our kids having a routine is really important. I can vouch for it because we've been doing it all these years, and
Hmm.
now I'm away from home for probably a week or two. We're waiting for my daughter is probably going to be induced on Thursday with her baby, and so I'm not even at home. I'm at some friends' house, and they have 7 girls, and they homeschool, and they're just, they're one of those
wow.
families that you just look at and go, wow. They do all kinds of stuff and fun stuff. I mean, they've gone to Hawaii and picked lemons and on a lemon farm, and so it's fun to see how other people homeschool, and they did it like how it worked for their family, what was natural for them. They have a big sense of adventure, and so they're always taking adventures, and they travel and they do things and they do it all together. And so, but I talked to their mom, and she struggles too with, am I doing enough? It's always seems to be that looming thing of, maybe I should be doing it this way or this way. And yet I see these girls and how they're turning out, and they're just balanced, wonderful people. And so it's like, wow, this is so cool. That's the beauty of homeschooling. And
It is.
so yeah, and then just like having that routine and all of that. My kids are at home and they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and I check in with them periodically and just say, okay, how's it going? And they're like, oh yeah, we did this and this, and they know what they're supposed to do, and there's also a sense of security there. Even though I'm not there, they
That's
know what to
right.
do. So
My
I
kids, my
agree.
kids like to know what's expected.
yeah,
I
You
think all
know,
kids do.
they
we
do.
started out this school year a couple weeks ago, and I didn't have everything together in my program, and so I hadn't printed out the assignment sheet for the week. And the kids are like, when are you printing the assignment sheet? What are you printing the assignment sheet? What do I have to do today? Especially for my son, it's like he likes to know, okay, because it's like, okay, if I, I am doing these things, and when these things are done, then I can do whatever it is that I'm going to do.
Right.
But they do that in other things too. We meal plan for
Right.
2 weeks at a time, and on our refrigerator, I have a list of all of the meals for 2 weeks, and the kids want to know, so what's going to be for dinner tonight, and they know they can go over and check the list. And if for some reason we haven't meal planned, because we just didn't have the time, that whatever, something's coming up, my husband hasn't shopped, whatever it was, the kids, well, what's for dinner? It's not on the refrigerator. What's for dinner tonight? What's for dinner tonight? What's for dinner tonight? And so for me, sometimes the list is now not I like lists, but now it's become a thing where I'm tired of answering the
Right.
same question over and over again. So if I have the list, if I have
Yep.
the assignment
You
sheet,
don't
if I
have to
have
answer a zillion
the food
questions.
list, then I don't have to answer it. They know where to find it. And if they can't find it, and then it's an issue. And my son is kind of a worrywart,
Right.
and he likes
Right.
to, he just needs everything detailed. And so that fulfills his need to know what is going on. And so I don't know. I think I must have just must have turned them into little list monsters along the way somewhere. I don't know.
As you're sitting there saying that, look at what, can you see that? Y'all probably can't read that. I'm getting ready to hand it to my son. We usually do meal plans too. See, this is how off I am. I forgot to take the chicken out.
I'm sitting here going, what is she doing? She's doing
I
something.
was tossing. Okay, y'all, we're really off today. Y'all are just going to have to laugh. I was sitting here tossing a pin at my son, trying to get his attention, and I was going to hand him a note because you reminded me I need to get chicken
Fresh.
fried.
Focus.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm telling y'all I'm off. Okay. I think we've covered the schedule. And you see what happens when you don't do your meal plan. And when you don't do your schedule, you can see Trish, and you can see her throwing notes in her
It's
pile.
called improvising.
Oh,
There's nothing wrong with that either. So
Improvising on dinner in our house is bacon and eggs. I don't know what it is.
Or
But
cereal.
like I have an obsession with always having bacon in the freezer and always having eggs. And it's like if I've forgotten to take the meat out or whatever it was, it's like, oh, guess we're having breakfast for dinner. Bacon and eggs it is.
there you go.
Ours is that or cereal. Believe me, I'm not above cereal. But they have soccer games tonight, so I couldn't do that tonight. So, okay, I'm going to the next question, y'all. Y'all might as well just take me out of the equation. Y'all can answer the questions. I'm telling you what. Okay, my kids are 6, 4, and 8 months, and I cannot seem to get any schoolwork done with them. The baby requires my constant supervision. I'm having a hard time getting anything done, including dinner. P.S. Baby does not nap. Bless her heart.
Yeah, oh man, yeah, that's tough.
Okay,
I mean,
I have no experience with this. 0. So you two get to answer this.
okay. Well, you want me to go first, Heidi?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I had 8 kids in 13 years, and so many of our homeschooling years have been with babies in tow. And so I think, when I read that, it's hard sometimes to be able to envision exactly what the situation is looking like. But I read the 6 and 4-year-old, and I think, wow, I really wasn't doing any schoolwork with my 6 and 4-year-olds. I did not start anything formal, school book-like, until usually about 7, unless for some reason they were begging me to do it before. And I know that sounds very unusual and very out of the ordinary, but that's how we did things. I tended to wait a little bit longer, and it really, my kids were ready at that point to really kind of dig in a little bit at that point. So I think when mine were that little, I wasn't doing, like I said, I wasn't doing a whole lot of formal schoolwork. We were still learning though, and that was the thing is changing our mentality about what school looks like at 6 and 4. To me, school looks like let's bake cookies, let's go to the park, let's check out some bugs, let's learn to sweep the kitchen floor. If you feel like you need to be doing a little bit of something with them, um, I'm wondering, this is one thing that I did with our kids was I would have the kids take turns playing with the baby while I worked with the other one. And that was really kind of fun because all my kids bonded really well because each of them would take turns taking care of the little ones, just playing with them for just a half an hour or something. And at 6 and 4, you're not going to be sitting down for hours doing schoolwork. At least I hope not. So maybe half an hour, and with the 4-year-old and the 6-year-old can play with them. But I think mostly it's just thinking about that school doesn't have to look a certain way, especially at that age. You can be pretty laid back and keep things really simple. And that's one thing, looking back, hindsight, I'm 20 years into this thing, and I so miss and enjoyed the simplicity that came with our kids being really little, and that's time in your life you can have things pretty simple, and so enjoy that because it incrementally gets more complicated as the years progress on its own naturally. So why bring that in way at the beginning when you know it's coming down the road and you can just build up to it instead? So my advice, just from my own perspective, would be just keep things really simple and really try to just enjoy your kids because they're only little once.
I agree. Heidi?
It was funny. As Dorinda's talking, I'm sitting here envisioning what it was like when my kids were that age because I had 7, 3.5, and a little one in our house and that was when I started homeschooling, was because when my first one was about 7, she'd finished first grade, and the exerciser was my best friend when my babies got a little more mobile. But believe it or not, schedule-y type A me was kind of like Dorinda in that, schooly was, floor schooling. It was educational puzzles or toys or messing around with the alphabet magnets or coloring or anything like that. And I would often, I had I'd go to Barnes and Noble or whatever and buy, a little, age-appropriate workbook and have my, I had the little kid-sized desk, and my, older one might sit at the kid-sized desk, and while I sat on the floor, with a board book and the baby or a toy or that kind of thing. And so, and it was never long periods of time, like you said. I would do, however long we could all manage. Maybe it was 15 minutes of something.
Right, exactly.
And then we just moved on to whatever. It was more kind of like an ebb and flow of play and little mini kind of activities that we did than any sort of real, let's all sit down at our desks and do something, and so, and even for me, because, I like those kinds of things, but even for me, that's, I remember spending lots of time sitting on the floor, sitting at the coffee table, playing with the baby and having my little one, like I said, doing a workbook or coloring or, whatever that happened to look like. I loved all Leapfrog products. I can't tell you how many games and educational toys and puzzles and things that we had. And and I said I had 7, 3.5, and a little one. So right around the ages that this this question is asking about. And so that's kind of how I managed it, was just really short little bits of time. And, if there was something that I wanted to sit down and have my little bit older one do, then I usually would have her sit at her little desk, and I would sit on the floor in that room or near her with, toys or whatever for the baby, so that I could be answering questions or interacting with whatever my older one was doing, but still entertaining the baby. And my 3-year-old, I just would pop in front of the TV for 20 minutes if I needed, and was like, oh, you want to watch whatever, for my my 3-year-old who maybe wasn't doing something, or he was very high energy. So I would just, that would be my, okay, let's, you get 20 minutes, you get to watch a show, this is your time, and I'll sit on the floor and play with the baby and work with our, with our little bit older one. So that's kind of how I did it. And I think that keeping your time expectations very low
Mm-hmm.
When the kids are little is really important. You're not going to sit for 45 minutes or an hour and do some highly
No.
focused activity. That's just not really what you should be trying to expect, I think, at that age.
Right. And I think I hear what I'm hearing you say, Heidi, is you had a small, a low level of being intentional, and it just, don't you think that it just kind of grows as the kids grow? And so that's a really great way to start out homeschooling, because you grow with the homeschooling journey rather than throwing yourself into, a bunch of expectations at this
Mhm.
young age. I just would encourage you that you don't want to look back and have regrets that you didn't enjoy your children because you were trying to do too much school. You know,
I think it's easy to be
yeah, go ahead,
mom.
Trish.
I really do.
Mhm.
When especially when you first start out, I think I hear a lot of moms ask about, well, how do you get them to take you seriously, or how do you get them to understand that we've
My kids still
transitioned
don't take
into
me seriously.
schooling? I know. So it's like, well, I think that's an interesting way to ask that question or to pose it. But you know, I think that they're trying to be teacher. I think
Right,
that's what
right.
what's going on
Maybe
is they're
that's
trying
why
to
they're
become
not
okay.
taking us seriously. They're like your mom. You're not.
Yeah,
I don't know. My
yeah.
teenagers don't take me seriously, so yeah, that's for sure.
But I do think that that's part of that when you're first starting out, we do have those things in our mind that we think it's supposed to look this way, or we're
Hmm.
supposed to do this, and I think that's one of them. There's got to be this transition point where we're schooling and now we're not.
Right.
And in reality, we all know school happens all day long, every day, every place we go. We're constantly schooling, whether we're potty training our
Right.
2-year-old or we're teaching our 8-month-old to feed themselves or 6-month-old to feed
Exactly.
themselves. We're constantly teaching, and I
Well,
think
and go ahead.
I think we've forgotten that. I think we
Yes.
forget that that's
Yes.
part of the school too.
Well,
So.
that is absolutely right. I'm just thinking you're jogging my memory as to when I started out homeschooling. There was some reading that I did before. I don't know, when the kids were really, really little, the older ones were really little. And I didn't do a ton of reading, but what I did read happened to be so good and so helpful. And it was just that. Okay, so you start out potty training. That can be a little bit of a battle, but you work through it and you figure out how it's going to work for that kid. And then, you teach them how to walk, you teach them how to talk. And you do all that so naturally. Why, when we start to teach them how to read or something else, why is that different? It's not. It's just in our minds we've been so convinced that someone else now takes over at that point, and someone else is going to do that job, and because I'm not capable. And you are completely capable. I mean, granted, I don't, there's some areas that I'm weaker in, but that doesn't mean that I can't figure out how to, how to or get something to help them learn something that I don't know about. I just want to say to moms, you are the perfect teacher for your kids, and you can do this. And you're designed to do it, and you love your kids more than anybody else. You care about them, and you know them. And so just keep going back to that when things get hard, that you can work through it and get through those obstacles.
You
Dog
know,
does not agree with me,
I
but that's
know.
okay.
I
And
think
it's not mine.
it's my dog. I think one of the big learning lessons even for kids is that we don't know everything. So
Right.
there's a learning process in learning how to learn, in learning how to answer the questions that that you're asking yourself or that your kids are asking you. And so we do that stuff together. We were just talking about that my son yesterday. My son was having some issues. We're trying to figure out, well, is it just because you're being lazy, or is it because you really just don't know? And it's okay not to know. And we
Right.
were using examples of my teenager, because she'll sit in this room with me and ask me questions when she's writing. And we were just having what did she ask me? Oh, she was asking why Earth. My teenager, why Earth was not capitalized. She was reading it in a textbook. and Earth was not capitalized in some of the sentences. I'm like, I'm not sure because I would have thought it was capitalized. Turns out that it's kind of like mom or dad. If you say my mom, it's not. If you say the Earth, it's not capitalized. And even I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, I would have assumed it was just capitalized. And so, she sees me going, yeah, I'm not sure. Let's look it up. Let's take a look and see what other people are saying or other people are doing. Let's find the answer.
Right.
And I've always felt that was an important part of what I want to impart on my kids, is that you don't need to know everything, and there's an art and a great importance in being able to find out what you don't know.
Exactly.
And there's some other options too. Co-ops are great. Where moms come together and they help each other. I have a brain block when it comes to algebra. I'll just tell y'all, I cannot do algebra for whatever reason. At my finite math and my calculus, I aced. But for whatever reason, algebra just did not click for me. So needless to say, I would not be the person at co-op teaching algebra. Somebody else that it just clicked with would be teaching algebra, and I might be teaching IEW or whatever else. So that's one of the luxuries. If there is a subject that you are really intimidated about or just don't feel comfortable with, if you are in a co-op, that's a reason you might want to join a co-op. It's for that very reason, to get other moms to help.
Right. And the other thing is you can start your own co-op with just a couple other moms who are good at things that you're not good at. And you can get together and you can exchange your talents in teaching your kids, and it's kind of fun too to just get everybody together and have a fun day like that. So absolutely, yeah. I mean, and honestly, like I did great in algebra and geometry and algebra 2 and trigonometry. I don't want to revisit that. So I just the want to just isn't there. And so my kids my boys in high school go to an algebra class and a geometry class, and I love it. I'm like, go, have fun, so, and it's also good for them because I think this is one thing that I learned over the years. I've talked to school teachers about when homeschoolers come back into the classroom and what are the challenges, what are the things that they find kind of common amongst them. It had nothing to do with socializing. Ha ha ha.
Of course. We knew that.
But it had to do with things like waiting your turn to get a question answered. And so I always kept that in the back of my mind. And one thing that I've done when we've been homeschooling is, and this is one thing when you're homeschooling multiple ages, that can just get really overwhelming really fast. So what I do is I'll be answering a question and another one will come up to me and I'll say, you're gonna have to wait. And I make them wait. Most of the time they figure it out on their own. It's amazing. And so that's been kind of a neat thing to learn, that if I actually make them wait a little while, a lot of times they will figure it out on their own, which is far better than me explaining it to them. The other thing is that, my boys take an algebra class and a geometry class. They're accountable to somebody else besides me. And at that age, at teenage, I think that's really good for them. It's good for them to not just be accountable to mom, but to be accountable to some other adult. And so that part of it I have really liked, the class outside of homeschooling. That's been a benefit. So.
And a lot of moms, when they start out, they don't realize that that's still homeschooling. We're still picking who the teachers are. Even though we're not actually sitting there teaching that class, we don't have to.
Right.
We can outsource that to a resource that we trust and that we believe in.
Yep.
And so, don't feel like if there's, and I've heard that a lot. I've heard a lot of moms say, well, I don't know how to do algebra. I don't know, the math has far surpassed what I did or what I feel comfortable with.
Right.
That's okay.
Our 19-year-old is a senior in college, and he has taken so many higher level math classes over the last few years. It just blows my mind what he can do. I did not teach him that, and he's not one of my kids who actually took an outside class. This kid figured it out on his own because he loved it and he wanted to figure it out. And so, and mom was like, I'm sitting here going, he would come to me. Actually, he didn't come to me that much because he knew.
Yeah, my kids know too.
But he would figure it out. Sometimes he would go to my husband if my husband was home. But he just, he worked it all out. And I'm just really, I'm amazed at what natural learners kids really are. And I think, Trish, you and I talked about this earlier, that as homeschooling moms, we need to remember that our
Mm-hmm.
kids are not empty vessels. They are natural born learners. And so our job is simply to facilitate that learning, not have to be the one to tell them every little bit of information that they'll ever need to know. Because first of all, that's impossible. We can't do that.
Thank
You
goodness.
know, yeah. So think of homeschooling as more like a facilitating thing, and everybody facilitates a little differently. Like Heidi, she facilitates with lists and
Checklist.
and does a
Mm-hmm.
darn good job of it, I might say.
There
So,
you go.
yeah. Anyway.
And I think that's something that as you homeschool and as you do it, you're going to figure out what works best for you and your family, because it's different. And I know that's scary. I know that when you first start out, you want a recipe and you want a formula that works, and we understand that. And so I know a lot of moms. You'll see a ton of questions in the group right now with, what is your first grader learning? And what is your first grader doing? And I know what they're doing. I know they're trying to get, to ascertain if their kids are on par, or if they're doing the right things, or if they're spending enough, quote, enough time. And you know how it is. I mean, that's part of it. And we understand that. We know that feeling, or at least I did. I walked that out. I lived it. So I get it.
I still
But
struggle with it. I've been doing this for
yeah.
20 years, and what we're doing has really worked for our family, but I see other moms, and I'm just like, wow, she is a great homeschooling mom. Look what a good teacher she is, and how she, I know these moms who are just information absorbers, and they can just spew out all this stuff, and I'm just sitting there going, wow, can you teach my kids? Because, I don't think I'm doing a good enough job here. But, that's where I just have to go back to, this is what works for us, and then just trust, God
And we're
for the rest.
enough. And we are enough.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to move. The next question is really very much like it. Do you like to schedule your day or wing it? I think we've sort of answered
Yeah, we
that.
did kind of answer that one.
So
I
I'm
know
going to say
now we're
select.
moving. Now we're moving to that next one. That I love having other moms to talk about homeschooling, but how do you keep from comparing and becoming insecure about how you are doing things? We kind of are.
Yeah, we're actually
We seem to be naturally moving to that one. And as you ladies were talking, I was thinking to myself, I think we all naturally compare. I think that's just a natural human nature thing, and I think we do it about everything. I mean, who doesn't look at somebody and look at the cute outfit they have on, or or the house, or whatever it happens to be? I think that's just natural, where you kind of we kind of have this grass is always greener on the other side kind of thing. And so I don't think that it's wrong or unnatural to compare, but I think that where we all get hung up is that we take that comparison to a point where it becomes personal, and it's suddenly we are not measuring up because what we are doing doesn't look like what someone else is doing, or we don't have that cute outfit, or we don't do that in our homeschool, or whatever it happens to be. And I think that's where we really get caught up is, everybody's different. Everybody's a different shape. Everybody's a different size. Everybody, people learn differently. People joke all the time when they know and meet my husband and I about how incredibly opposite and how incredibly different we are. You can almost guarantee if I like it, he hates it. And that's people. So I mean, people are different, and so your family works differently than my family does. What I'm comfortable with, what would not be comfortable for somebody else. And so I think that, well, yes, you see a lot of people, and you have this tendency to want to compare. Is that you need to remember that yes, it's natural, and everybody seems to compare, but it's not healthy for you to get caught up in feeling like what you're doing is not enough because it's not what somebody else is doing. You have to do what works for you. Like Dorinda said, she's been doing it 20 years, and she's seen success out of it, but she still sometimes says, that kind of looks great. Look what she's doing, And she knows, she has experience. She's had 20 years, and she knows that what she's done has been working for her family. And yet, she still has that natural tendency to look at someone else's, shiny new curriculum or whatever it is. I know Trish has the shiny new syndrome sometimes, and we like the shiny new stuff.
Bad.
And so, I think that, we get this question all the time, and I think we do kind of stick to our answer, but I think that, we all need to remember that it is natural, but that you
Right.
can't get so caught up in it that it becomes this, well, I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing enough, or I need to change what I'm doing just because what I'm doing doesn't look like somebody else. Because, we all sit here and chuckle about how incredibly type A listy I am, and type A listy works for me. And while I look at other people and think, oh, I'd really like to do that, I know that every time I try to stray too much from what I'm doing, it doesn't work as well for us. Even for my kids, like I said, they're looking for the list. They want that information. They want to know. And so, as much as sometimes I look at other people and think, oh, I'd love to be more unschooly, or I wish I were a little more free flowing. And in some respects, I can do that here and there. But as a general rule, what we do works for us. So comparing would only make me feel bad and only make me try and pick up a method that doesn't work for us. And I mean, yes, I have 9 years of homeschooling under my belt, and I'm comfortable with where we're at. So.
Well, and I think that's a really important point. I think having been drug away maybe from the way that it works for you enough times, and so that's not necessarily a failure when that happens. It's just another learning curve. Okay, I did away from what works for us, and I need to just go back to what I know works for us. And you can't take away the element of learning from other people. I mean, we really do. We can get great ideas from other moms, and sometimes those ideas work for us. And so my experience is usually that I already had a kind of a feeling like that particular thing needed to change, and then I saw something else that somebody was doing and thought, that might work for us. And so that's a different situation. Instead of just going along and like, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good until I see something different, versus going along and I'm kind of feeling like this one area I'm just not sure about, and then I see something. Those are two different things. And one is, letting something else drag you away from what's working for you. The other is knowing in your heart you need to tweak something, and you're just looking for the right thing. So
and you just said it. You were looking. You were already. Your eyes were peeled. You were already canvassing the landscape, going,
right, or at least,
or like you said, you had that inkling. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
I agree because that is a good point, because history has been my sore thumb. I don't know about y'all, but I think we all have one area that we seem to really struggle with finding what works. And what has worked for me on history finally just this year, and we're just now starting it. I could be going 8 weeks from now or 10 weeks from now. I could be going, oh, here we go again. But right now it seems to be working, and we'll see. But it has been a struggle, and so I think I'm constantly watching when somebody's posting history stuff. I'm constantly going, ooh, let me go look at that history curriculum. So yes, and Heidi, I do have that bright shiny object syndrome. I'm constantly looking, but that is a very valid point. I'm glad both of y'all brought that up, because looking and comparing is one thing. It's when we get hung up and it makes us change because of feeling less than or not doing enough.
Right.
We all do that anyway, like we were talking about earlier. We all are always, I mean, at least I am. Am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? I think we all have a tendency to ask that. And especially type A's, Heidi, we're always asking that question. So great point, y'all. I'm glad y'all brought that up, because I didn't thought about that.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think Heidi pointed out is at least this is what I was hearing you say, Heidi, was when it starts to change your thought processes to negative about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And, where you were fine, and now all of a sudden you're not fine. And so I think it is such an easy trap to fall into. And so we just have to be aware. And sometimes that means, for me, I have to pull back from reading any more stuff, hearing from anybody else, and just kind of being quiet for a little while alone, and just saying, okay, thinking it through, what is working for us and what is maybe not working for us, and just being kind of coming back to grips and and peace with about how we're doing things. And like I said, I'm doing things a little bit different with some of my younger kids than maybe I did with my older ones because I can. I've got these older ones who are fairly independent, and I've got our youngest has dysgraphia and some dyslexia, which none of my other kids had, at least not that I know of. And it's work, it's a lot of work. It's just, you have to just plod every single day. And, I don't know if any of you guys have any kids with that kind of stuff going on, but it's like you repeat every single day over and over and over again. You feel like you're going to lose your mind because one day they do great and the next day they have no idea what they did the day before. They don't remember it. And then all of a sudden it sticks and it's there for good, but you never know when that happened or when it's going to happen. So that was, kind of an interesting way for me to end my homeschooling career, is to have a kind of a high needs homeschooling kid at the end. I wasn't really expecting that. So that's been a new experience for me. It's always.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I think we lost Dorinda.
Am I here?
Oh,
yeah,
there she is. We lost you for a minute.
Yeah, we did.
Wow. So
you were saying you were sort of surprised about closing out your homeschooling career with a high needs child, and I think that's where we lost you, was right about there.
Yeah. So I didn't see that coming. So, but it's just like, everything else in life, you don't see it coming. So you're just going to have to make the adjustments. So I think looking at the benefits, though, where I get to really spend a lot of time with him, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, and you were talking about, the question talks about insecurity, and becoming insecure about how you're doing things. And I think in the beginning we're already insecure. It's really, you're already feeling insecure about, for whatever reason, we all have this thing that, at least I did, where you don't feel comfortable in your skin yet being a teacher.
Yeah.
And so I think that you already come from a point of insecurity. So it's hard. It's really hard. But y'all brought up some very valid points. I'm glad y'all brought those up, because I had not thought to even think about, how looking at other folks is still healthy and good for you, especially if you're still trying to figure out what you're going to look like and what you're doing.
Right.
So, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. So I'm glad y'all brought that up.
And I think it is important to remember that it's it may be seem like a little more work sometimes, but being your child's teacher is really, if you really dig deep, I think it's just as natural as being their mother. It's just that we've been told something else, and we have to change our mentality about it. That we can do this.
I agree. I think that's one of the things that I have. We were talking earlier about the younger child in the mix, and how y'all all had younger kids and y'all were teaching. Well, the reason I didn't was because I do have 14, 13, and 10, but mine were at the Montessori school. I had them off at school literally from the time they were 3 years old to the time I brought him home, which was, Chase was 9, and Blake was going into kindergarten when I brought him home. So yeah, I didn't have to do that. I didn't have that experience. But we all hit homeschooling from different perspectives, and so I came in. I was so insecure. I was doing Montessori, and I was so insecure. I actually hired one of the teachers from school to be like a retainer. I'm not kidding, y'all. I'm not kidding. So I get that insecurity so vividly. I understand that, because I literally hired a teacher as to be on retainer, almost like a lawyer sits out there. And I'd have her come out. She came out at least once every couple of weeks just to check on me to make sure I was doing it right. Is that not funny? See, I'm telling you.
Well, you just needed some reassurance, and I think that's what Mentoring Moms is about, and that's what Hip Homeschool Moms and Hip Homeschool Moms community is about, is just some reassurance, because like we've said earlier, we're all going to do things a little bit differently, but there's someone else out there doing it similar to how we're
Yeah.
doing it. And if we can connect with them and get encouragement from each other, that makes all the difference in the world. You know, you just
I
needed
agree.
someone to say, you're doing a good job, keep going, you know.
Exactly. I did. I needed somebody to say, "Yep, that's right." And she
Yeah,
would teach me. She wouldn't teach the kids. That was her line. She said, "Okay, I'll teach you. I won't teach them, but I'll teach you how to teach them if there's a concept you don't get." I was like, "Okay."
right. Well, I think
So
that's
that
cool,
worked.
and there are huge challenges to jumping in the middle, you know, like taking a child who's already been in school and starting to homeschool them. Heidi, did you
Hmm.
do that, or
I
did you
did.
start with kindergarten? Okay, how was
Mhm.
that for you?
Um, you know, for me, my oldest, so she's the one that I pulled after first grade. I pulled out. That wasn't so much an issue for me because she was just so far ahead of the game where she was
Okay.
at, and I had spent 1 day a week volunteering in her classroom over the couple of years, and we had, worked with the teacher and let their, specialist test her and do all of this stuff. And by the end, I was creating her homework. The day I was spending in school was spent sitting at a desk with her, doing her work with her. I was driving her to and from school due to the violence issues on the bus that she wasn't happy with.
Oh
It was
my
like,
word.
it became this, why on earth am I even sending her to school?
Yeah.
Um, so that was, it was different for me. It was a kind of a different reasoning why we brought her home and why we started that way. And my other two just did preschool, just did threes preschool, just because it was kind of a nice jaunt for them to get out of the house a little bit and give me a little
Right,
breather. And
right,
so for me, it wasn't so much having to worry about, kind of picking up where they were and trying to figure out where they were and going from there. It was more, I knew exactly where she was. I was basically doing it all. And I just stopped going to the four walls and
right,
started doing it all at
right.
home instead.
And I've seen some of my friends do that whose kids are in public school and their kids come home with hours of homework. And I just look at them and I say, you're homeschooling your child right now. This is what you're doing because the bulk of their work is getting done at home with you. So,
Hmm.
and so, yeah, I totally
And
get
I
that.
think that that actually is a model that the public school system is going to. I mean,
Hmm.
I really do believe that's a model that's happening all across the nation. And so, and I hear moms complaining about it, saying, I spend as much time teaching them as they're, getting taught at school. I feel like
Hmm.
I'm doing a lot of that work. Well, if you're doing the work, you might as well do it anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and have a little
Um,
more control over what's happening those other 8 hours a day so you're not doing it at night. So,
Exactly.
No, and
Yeah.
it frees up time. My teenager was just sitting around the table the other night here at our house with some of her friends, all public schooled, and they were kind of, needling her about going to school and why don't you go to school and don't you want to go to school and one of the girls, her sentiment was, you need to come to school and suffer with me. Well, there you go. Start being happy
oh yeah.
weird. I mean, so, we do class and we do homework all at home, and it takes less time. Her friends are in school all day. They're at the gym with her all evening. They go home at, 8:30 at night and have to shower and eat and, hours of homework and, rest for a few hours, get up, repeat at 6 a.m. the next
Yeah.
morning. And so
Yeah.
that's
That's crazy.
something that, why, and
Yeah.
that's what my teenager, she's
Yeah.
like, why would I want to do that? Because when my teenager gets up at 7 and sits down and focuses, she's done between 10:30 and 11:30. She can eat a leisurely lunch. She can watch TV. She can, whatever it is she
Nap
wants to do
if you
and
want.
have downtime. Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad you said that because one thing that I want to try to squeeze in here before we're done is going back to when the kids are little and enjoying them when they're little. But the other thing that I want to really remind everybody of is they have one childhood, and to me, I want to give my kids a good childhood where they actually got to be a kid, and at 5 years old, to me, sitting down and doing, hours of schoolwork is not being a 5-year old. It doesn't come, usually doesn't come naturally for them because it's not supposed to, they're more at an exploring age, they want to go out and check things out with their own hands and, their own senses and, everything. And that's the kind of childhood we tried to give our kids, and I think I don't regret that. They're they're happy kids, they're well adjusted, but I think just remembering to let them be little, let them be kids, and not to be wound up about school at that age.
I
Mm-hmm.
know I have friends that are just completely overwhelmed with that. They're working full time or they're working part time and they're rushing home with their kids and there's all these projects to do and all this, the big science fair project every year and and all the time and all the papers and all the homework and all the, and these poor parents don't get to enjoy any time with their kids because it's, if they're getting in extracurricular activities like, like if they're doing some sort of sports or whatever, and between that and all of the homework that there is no family time anymore.
Right.
There isn't that joy or that that downtime for them to be kids and for you to be together as a family, and
Well,
there
it's
isn't
burnout. I mean, I
that.
just think that everybody's going to burn out and nobody's going to be having any fun or enjoying anything anymore.
I agree. We
So,
even have an article on our website that it's directed at homeschoolers, and it says, the case against a full day kindergarten.
yeah,
But it's not exclusively. I actually shared it in an education site because it's not really just about homeschool. It's about
right.
kindergarten
Yep.
and the need for play and the need for free creative time for
Mm-hmm.
them to process stuff. And so even homeschoolers can fall victim to that full day,
Right.
kindergarten curriculum. But I agree. I think it's a trend at school. I see it a lot. Well, we are over time, y'all, believe it or not. And so we are going to cut it here. We hate that Lisa, I messed up. We changed our time. See, I'm still messed up from last week, y'all. I changed the time and neglected to tell Lisa that I had changed the time. So she was ready at 10 this morning, and then she's not this afternoon. So I apologize for not having Lisa with us. But I'm thankful to have Dorinda. And Dorinda, y'all be praying for her. Her daughter is about to go into labor any
Yes.
moment, we hope.
Yes.
And so, Dorinda, please keep us up to date.
I
We're
will do
praying
that.
hard.
Thank you.
We're praying hard. So y'all be sure to follow these ladies. This is Dorinda Wilson over at Simple Nursing Home, and Heidi Saravola. I can say it more Italian if I need to. Who is it starts at 8. And Lisa Pennington, who's not here, is the Pennington Point. And of course, I'm Hip Homeschool Mom. So thanks, y'all. I appreciate y'all being here, and we will try to have our ducks in a row for next week a little bit better. But I think it turned out great. We did it, it was a very informative show. So thank y'all for being here. And
All
we will
right.
see y'all next week. Y'all have a great week, okay?
Okay. You too.
Bye.
Bye.